So please welcome Udo Erasmus to the show. Welcome, Udo.
Hi, glad to be on.
Oh, it's so good to
Yeah.
see you. And if you, I'm 55 years old, and I can remember now that I see you, and I'm going to associate going to like Whole Foods and seeing Udo's Choice. I've grown up with that,
Mm.
and I know I've taken it, and now realizing that I haven't in the last whatever, 20 years. Why haven't I probably have here and there, but now learning and going down your rabbit hole, there is no way I'll ever not do that and never have my children and husband not do that. But oh, it's been so fun to really like understand your story. Wow. Like just even seeing the jobs you've done. The one that really caught my eye was like babysitting pickled fish at a fish farm. Like who does
In
like
a in a in a fish museum, yeah.
in a fish museum? I was like, what? But there's so much depth to your story. And why, what are you, 81 now?
I'll be 82 in May.
Okay, 82.
Yeah.
My mom's 80. My dad would have been 82, but he didn't have your knowledge of the nutrition world. So he passed away when he was 64. So when I
Wow.
listen to you
Mm.
and how healthy you are right now at your age, I mean, you're like the walking commercial. Like you don't really need to do all these shows because
Yeah.
you just need to, you are the truth of what you talk about and what you believe and what you've studied. And but what
Yeah,
my
I like to tell people, I know I'm gonna die one day, but I'm gonna die healthy.
yes, exactly. And I love it. And I'm very health conscious. So when I saw your name come through on my email, I was right away going, "Oh, I'd love to." I feel like you're someone that's made a difference in my life. And now, even now, knowing more about you, I my show is called Uncover Your Magic.
Yeah.
And I know everyone has magic, and I know you know that too. But I would love to go back to, I want to, before we start talking about the nutrition aspect of your life, I want people to understand where that came from. Because we can look at life from a higher perspective and say, wow, I got that job at the pesticide thing so I could really dig deep and teach the world how healthy oils are going to benefit your life. Or, I was in these two wars, like all the things that you experienced in life led you to be this man on this planet right now. Udo Erasmus, take us to maybe when you're two, how you
Okay.
grew up with your family and
Yeah.
all that stories.
Well, yeah, I had I guess I just guess you could say I had a rough start when I was born during the Second World War, 1942, in Poland, in part of Poland that was then part of Germany. And born on a farm that belonged to a farmer whose farm was taken away by Germany and given to my dad, whose farm was taken away from him in Latvia and was given to the Soviet Union. That's the politics of the day.
Right.
They Hitler and Stalin made a non-aggression pact,
Hmm.
and they said they're not going to fight each other. Of course, they broke it a few years later, but they made the pact, and that as part of the pact, Latvia went to Soviet Union and part of Poland went to Germany. But there was nobody from Latvia or Poland at the meeting.
Hmm.
They just took it because
Wow.
they were big and they could.
Right.
So I was born during the Second World War, and at the end of the war, we were refugees fleeing out of Poland. My father and the farmer whose farm he was given, they had worked together. The farmer was his farmhand. So
Wow.
he had the guy's farm and he was the boss. My dad was the boss.
Hmm.
And the farmer whose farm it was became a farmhand for my dad. So
Huh.
there was some tension there, as you can imagine, right?
Right.
What do you mean you got my farm, right? You
Right.
know,
And you're my
and so he
boss.
said, my dad said to him, listen, this is a crazy time we're living in. Let's just run the farm the way the farm needs to be run. And when all of this crazy stuff settles out, we'll sort it out. And then they became friends. And
Hmm.
then they helped us get out when the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. We were on horse-drawn hay wagons, on dirt roads with no military presence, mostly women and young children, because all the men were dead or in war or wherever. And there were dead horses and dead people in the ditches.
Oh.
And the Allies, the communists were chasing us in tanks and trucks. And the Allies, who we like to think of as the good guys, because we're the Allies, right?
Right.
Right? US, Canada, UK. Well, they were shooting at us from planes. They were using refugees as target practice.
Huh.
And so we were caught in between them chasing us and them shooting us from front. So my mother left the road, and it's winter, to go through the fields because it was safer in the fields because they were shooting at the roads, not at the fields.
Hmm.
So, but she had 6 kids, so she could only take 2, so she left 4 kids behind. I was one of the ones left behind. Can you imagine?
No, I could
Being
not.
a mother,
No,
you have children, right?
I do
Can you
too.
imagine being a
No.
mother having to make that kind of a decision?
No, I know. When I heard that, I just couldn't believe it. But yes.
Yeah. And anyway, so eventually her sister heard about the story, and then she went and she found us and reunited us with the family.
But that was like 2 weeks, right? It wasn't that long.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks. Well, for a 2-year-old, 2 weeks without mommy is probably pretty intense.
Right.
What came out of it for me, I was really shy. I never knew what I could trust. I never knew what I could count on. And I never felt safe.
Right.
So, and I lived like this, and I'm, my hands are sort of across my chest here, right?
Right.
I was really shy. And I ended up in the world of books because books are safe. And I always wanted to find out how things work. Because when you know how something works, so I was always doing experiments, breaking a lot of stuff when I'm doing them too, right? Because I always want to find out how things work, because when you know how things work, they become predictable. Right. And then you get a certain amount of security from having that predictability. And when I was 6 years old, we were in Germany, and I listened to adults argue, and they were so intense. They'd get into these things, and they were just and it always made me really uneasy because I was pretty sensitive, right? Right. And one day there was an argument, and I was listening to the argument. It was like they were arguing about something that seemed so trivial to me. As a 6-year-old, it was trivial. Can you imagine how trivial it must have been?
Right.
Right.
Is it your parents arguing, or just were?
No, these were just adults in the community. Right?
Huh.
I was just around on a farm. I can't even remember what the argument was or anything. But the thought came to me is, man, there must be a way that human beings can live together in harmony. And this little cocky voices. And I'm going to find out how, 6-year-old doesn't know how complicated everything. Oh, sure. You're just going to figure it out. Right. Right. But that's been my driver all my life. Right. It's always So then I went into science, but after high school, I went into science to try and understand how things work. And then I got into biological science to understand how creatures work. And then I went into psychology to understand how thinking works. All in the service of, man, there must be a way we can live in harmony. Then I went into medicine because I wanted to learn about health. But we only learned about disease in medicine. Right. And I talked to the dean, and I said, well, I came here to study health. You call it healthcare, right? And I mean, I didn't even say that part of it, but it's like, it's healthcare. That's what we call it. So I figured, well, you study medicine, you learn about health. So I said, so I'm not learning anything about health. What is health? He said, in his very low voice and his very confident low voice, he says, we don't know. We're working on it. Oh, and wow. That was about the most disappointing statement ever made to me. Because what do you mean you're working on it? You don't know what health is? And so and then we were told also in first year medicine, we were told that a doctor should always sound as though he knows what's going on, even when he doesn't. Oh, wow. And that ended my medical career because we call that lying on the farm. Right. And so I went back into biological sciences, into biochemistry and genetics, because I was learning more about health there than in medicine. Because when you learn biology, it's not perfect, but you're studying normal creatures in normal situations in their normal state, right? And that's closer to health because medicine is addicted to looking at disease. They don't even have a definition of health. Then they do symptom suppression and crisis management and crisis intervention and life support systems. and they can monitor your descent to the graveyard,
Right.
but they never have a goal of what does it look like to be healthy, to take you towards. So it's all symptomatic. It's not symptom suppression. I mean, it's symptom suppression. It's not healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, no, I don't think I want to be part of that. And then lie to people about about what I'm doing or what I know, just so
Right.
I sound like an expert. That wasn't for me. So and then I still didn't find in biology what I was looking for, because I actually wanted to know what life is. What is life?
Mm-hmm.
What is life? What exactly is life? And I thought we would have a beaker, like maybe at some point we'd have a beaker and there'd be something in it that was liquid and shining. And that's what I pictured life would.
That's what I love about you, because that's
And
where you are so, when you talk about life and when you talk about the peace and the present moment, I resonate with that so much. So when you go deep like
yeah,
this is what I want. This is what
yeah,
I want Udo to talk
yeah,
about.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, but we never got that. I even said to my lab partner one day, because we worked with animals, and by the time we were done with the experiment, they were dead. We learned something about form and function, but we never got a handle on life. Even we talk about energy in the human body. We talk about the molecule that carries that energy, but we never get a handle on the energy. ATP, right, is the molecule.
Right.
Adenosine triphosphate, right? And so it does some things, and energy gets and we never get a handle on the energy. And I want to know what the energy is. So eventually, I left university because I said I'm not what I didn't know really exactly what I was looking for, because in biology I said, oh well, there's this liquid shining thing that's life, but I wasn't I didn't have really a handle on it either. At one point I said, look, we should study ourselves, because
Mm-hmm.
we have form and function and life all together, and we don't have to kill ourselves to get to know it.
Right.
And that was a hint of something that happened much later, but I didn't understand even what I said.
Huh.
Right? But I said it, and
Right.
I look back and I said, wow, that's pretty prescient, right?
Right.
Wow, that's like, wow, I came up with that. I didn't know what I was talking about, and I came up with that, right? So
Well,
then
it's
I left.
inside you. It's in your soul. It's your soul speaking.
Almost, it's like channeling. It's
Yeah.
almost like channeling, but I didn't know what I was channeling.
Right.
It's kind of nice to know what you're channeling. At some point, it might be nice to know what you're channeling, right?
But didn't you have some kind of
Uh,
moment that you saw something
oh
and
yeah,
you didn't share it for like 50 years or something?
I'll get to that. So
Okay,
I
good. I don't
left
want you to leave that
university,
out.
and then
Okay.
I did some psychedelic
Oh yeah.
experiences. I had one. The first one was 60 micrograms of Sandoz LSD
Well,
in a sugar
that was in
cube.
the 60s.
In the
So,
sugar cube. That was in 1964.
okay, before I
And
was born.
and and I rolled on the floor laughing on the living room where I was doing it with a couple of guys who were just there to witness it, I guess. Rolling on the floor, laughing in time to Mozart music, tears running down my cheeks. I'm laughing and crying at the same. I mean, it was bizarre, right?
Huh.
And the thing that struck me as the most unbelievable joke, cosmic joke, is that everything that I was so studiously looking for in the outside world was all already within me.
In you. Yes.
And that just blew my mind. And
Huh.
that blew the door off my war baby personality, my this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of blew the door off, and it was, oh my God, there's 1,000 ways I could live.
Right.
Okay, how do I want to live? And then it took me quite a while to sort that out. But it was like, I never thought there was anything more that I never thought in terms of options ever.
Huh.
I was just moving along the way it was, So
Can
that
you
was
still remember that experience like it was yesterday, or does it take you a
the
while to
LSD.
go back there? Yes,
The
the LSD.
LSD.
Yes.
Well, LSD is like, and the psychedelics, it's like an interesting thing. They give you a picture, but they don't put you in the picture.
Okay.
Right? So then the idea is, okay, so a possibility got opened up. And all the work is to manifest that possibility. That's the work. And
What do you see
LSD
though? What do you
and
see?
LSD doesn't do the work for you.
Right.
right?
It gives you the vision.
But yeah, and I would say it's a there was hallucination, and the ceiling was moving, and all that kind of stuff. But this is part of it. But I think, and it's interesting you asked the question, because I've never actually thought about it. What exactly was it gave me? It gave me an experience.
Hmm.
I saw something inside. I felt something inside. And it opened that up for me, because my focus, like when you're in your mother's womb, your focus is inside, at rest, in its source, in life, in awareness, because it's no place for it to go.
Right.
Nowhere to go, nothing to do, everything taken care of, safe, pretty much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your focus is inside. And so LSD, and then of course you come out into the world, and your focus goes out into the world, because you have to get to know the world, and you have to live in it, and you have to maneuver your way around it, and you have to figure out every time something changes, is this friend to approach? Is this enemy to run or fight? Or is it irrelevant because it's like you can ignore it, right?
Right.
So that we're always drawn out through our senses into the world of change. And we're drawn away from something within us
Mm-hmm.
that has the answer we're looking for out there.
Right.
It's such a joke in a way how we live, right?
It is.
It's actually pretty funny. We have it within us. Like, you want peace in your life, you want contentment in your life, you want stress-free in your life, you want a place where there's no overwhelm, you want a place where you don't feel the blues, you want a place where you feel loved, unconditionally loved. That place exists within you already.
Right. You gave me tears.
You are unconditionally loved 24/7, 365, lifelong, by a fraction of solar energy
Mm-hmm.
that was filtered through 93 million miles of space, and then filtered through the atmosphere, and then filtered through molecules in green plants. And then the fraction that remains after that filtration of sunlight is stored in bonds between atoms and molecules. And then you eat those molecules as food, and in your cells, those bonds get broken, and that solar energy fraction is released. And that's now called life. Mm-hmm. And life is the master in your body that runs every chemical reaction in every cell in your body lifelong. It weighs nothing, runs everything, right?
Right.
And I actually looked up just yesterday how many chemical reactions happen in a cell every second.
How many?
1 billion.
Oh my gosh.
1 billion. So there are 1 billion reactions in your cell every second, right? Yeah. So multiplied by 64 a minute, 64 an hour, right. 24 for a day, 30, year, 100 years, right? So unbelievable, the number of chemical reactions that happen. Every one of those chemical reactions is run by life, that solar fraction. And that life is the master in your body. It is omnipresent, omnipotent, or omnipotent, and omniscient in your body. That's a definition of God. It is the master in your body. It is God's present in your body if you go down the religious track.
Right. Is that how would you describe it?
So it's within you. It's like it's there, right?
Right.
And that solar energy fraction is a flow of unconditional, empowering love for your body. Now, there's only one more piece to this, which is if I say to you, hey, Ashley, whose body is that? What would be your answer?
Well, I've listened to you talk.
Oh, yeah.
My body was, but people
most people would say, it's
yes.
my body, right? So now you've just told me that you're not the body.
Right.
So who are you? Well, you're the owner of the body. If this is my body, I'm the owner of this body, right? Well, who am I as owner of the body? Well, who owns the body? right? It's like,
Right.
okay, who owns the body? Life owns the body.
Right.
So that solar energy fraction that I was just talking about, that is God, that is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent in the body, that is the master, that is who I am in my individual essence.
Right.
Now we kind of act like we were the body a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
actually the master in the body, life in the body, runs everything all the time. And the only project that God has within me is to run the body. Right?
Right. Yep.
Same, the only mission that God has within you is to run your body. And this is true for 8 billion people on this planet. And by the way, it's also true for the dogs and cats
Mm-hmm.
and all of the animals. And by the way, it's also true for the trees and the
Trees.
planet.
Right.
And oh, by the way, it's also true for all the bacteria and the other microorganisms.
Right.
Right? All run by a solar energy fraction. And the thing that I was looking for when I studied biology, I thought, there's the life. And that life is within me. And I am actually that life. And when the body and life part company, I will be going with life. I will not be staying with the body. The body's just going to get recycled.
Right.
Right. And I'm going to go wherever that energy goes.
Yeah. Where do you go? Where do you see that going?
I don't know. I don't need to know.
You don't?
No, but
Where do
I'll
you,
be
you've never
no,
thought,
but I'll be there.
will you come back in a body again?
Well, that's a whole interesting thing, because like worms are going to eat the body, right?
Right.
My body, worms are going to eat that. So
Or are you
my
going to be
body's
burnt or cremated?
so well. It depends, whichever. So
Right.
you let's say create it. You throw it in the garbage, or you throw it in a pot, or you throw it in someplace.
Right.
Well, eventually those minerals that didn't burn, that are just the dust that your body's made from, well, the worms are going to eat it. And then those are going to turn into butterflies, and then a bird's going to eat the butterfly, and then they're going to turn into a bird, right? And then when the bird gets recycled, then maybe a mouse eats the remains. So all of the matter, all the material gets recycled through nature on a
Mhm.
continuing basis. If I live 100 years and I drink the amount of water I'm supposed to drink, I
Mhm.
will drink 88 tons of water in my lifetime, 15 times my body weight every year. Which part of that is going to come back as me next time? Because it's all just passing through, right? The
Right.
minerals and the vitamins and the amino acids and the fatty acids, and the energy of life itself, everything is just passing through this focal point
Mhm.
that is me for as long as it does, right? So
Right.
it's all passing through. So the idea is, are you going to come back? Which part of the water am I going to come back in?
Yes, I love
Right?
that. Yeah.
But did you get that? It's like I don't know how to make reincarnation work in that sense,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. That's interesting.
Which piece of energy that is my soul, or that is flowing through me as life, which part of that comes back
Right.
at some other time?
But everything's happening right now.
Yeah. So fundamentally, what you have is I have billions of years I wasn't around, and afterwards I'm going to be billions of years I won't be around, and it won't take long before nobody remembers me either, right? Right? Because there've been 100 billion people on this planet
Right.
in as human beings, so who remembers any of those people? Well, almost nobody remembers
Right.
almost most of them.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
And so they say, okay, well, what is the point for you being here? Well, you're dust, water, and air, and a little bit of sunlight, all mixed together in this incredible way as a human being, and you get to have the experience of being a human being made out of dust, water, and air. And what does it feel like to have that experience? Because there's the point and the purpose.
Right.
Right? To be fully present in all of your being and your surroundings, and do the dance and enjoy the dance,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that dance is. I mean, the dance is washing your dishes and going to the toilet and, taking the bus, and, that's all part of the dance, right? So
Right.
so the purpose is for you to personally enjoy that dance, because it's your dance in your body, and nobody can enjoy that for you.
Right.
And it's wasted if you don't enjoy it. So here we are, fully present in all of my being and my surroundings. That's the primary purpose for the time I have, which might be 100 years, right?
Mm-hmm. Or more.
And or more, or less.
Yeah, or less.
Right? Yeah, right. and then the second purpose is because when I'm present in my space, there's peace in that space, and it's an unshakable, infinite peace that is centered in me but goes out to infinity, is not limited by the dimensions of my body. So peace there is peace everywhere, all the time. Even in a war, peace is everywhere, right? So peace is there, and I feel unconditionally and empoweringly loved. And when you're like that, then what's left to do? Only one thing. How can I help?
Yes.
What can I do that needs to be done?
Right.
How can I make the biggest splash for good that's possible to make in the time that I have here?
Right. Oh, I love
Right?
it.
How simple is that, right? So number one purpose is not to help. Number one, because when you don't feel cared for, then your number one purpose, honestly stated or not, usually not stated, is you're going to try and do whatever it takes. You're going to try and do whatever you have to do in order to feel cared for.
Right.
And that's why we have wars, and that's why people are greedy, and that's why people are unfaithful in their marriages. And I mean, you go on and on of all the crazy things we've done on this planet in the direction of destruction. All comes from discontent, that comes from disconnection from ourselves. And the disconnection is a normal, natural, necessary process. And the reconnection has to be deliberate.
Right.
Because it won't happen automatically. But we are very lucky that when we feel disconnected, our heart aches. Heartache is the greatest gift we've ever been given, other than being alive. Because if it wasn't for heartache, pulling you out of your head into your body, making you simple, if it wasn't for heartache, we would get so lost we would never find our way back.
Right.
So heartache is the call to come home. And so then what I say to people is sit with your heartache. Sit with it. Just don't try do anything with it. Just be with it. Quietly, gently. Don't judge it. Just feel it. Accept it. Appreciate it. Maybe embrace it. Because that far, like less than a hair's breadth behind your heartache, is your reconnection, where you find your peace and your love and your wholeness.
Oh, so true. I love that.
How cool is that, right?
Right. And how simple.
And then you go back, like I go back in my life. I came out of a war. It wasn't fun. Great, huge gift. Huge gift, because we had everything stripped. Our farm was gone, our culture was gone, our language was gone, the neighbors were gone, the dishes were gone, the community was gone, the culture was gone, the religion was gone. Like everything was gone except body and life is the only thing we managed, by grace, you could say, managed to retain. Right? That's all. And so I had all of that stripped. So I wasn't starting from, oh yeah, I've had a really good life and comfortable, and I've hobnobbed with all the fancy people and gone to all the parties, and this is my, I'm entitled to this kind of a lifestyle. No, I got that all stripped. So I started from scratch. And unstripping all of that stuff is hard work. And it's why in America, in North America, and in Europe now too, they've picked up all that culture again, and they're so steeped in it, and they're doing the same stupid things that led to the Second World War. They're still doing the same stupid things, because they don't realize that life in human form is the most incredible gift, filled with what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know that because they're
Right.
still out there, right?
Right.
And so they're messing up on the outside. They're going in the direction of having everything stripped from them by their own stupid behavior, till they get to the point that was able to get to as a kid,
Right.
because everything was stripped from us by stupid behavior then.
Right.
Right.
And that's all. Yes. But it's all
And
perfect.
I go back and I say, what a gift.
Right.
Because I didn't have to try to unwind all that, because I probably wouldn't have known how to, just like people don't know how to. It was
Mm-hmm.
taken away. I got to start from scratch. And
Right.
so I got to start from scratch, and then basically question everything, and then ask the question, well, how is it? Why, what is it? Why is it? Asking the questions, looking for answers, always looking for what's the deepest point of our what's the deepest cause of why the world isn't working perfectly. And it always comes back to our natural disconnection from ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and our not recognizing what that heartache is. And because we're not recognizing it, not using it to find our way back.
Right. I love
Is that
it.
cool?
Yes, it's so cool. Is that, I know you have 3 kids. So when
Yeah.
you're talking and I'm listening and I'm
Yeah.
thinking of how I've raised my girls, when something happens, in their life, I've taught them it's always working for you. Everything's perfect. And all those words that you were just speaking of.
Yeah.
Did you raise your daughter's son? Yeah, I know you have a daughter for sure, but
I have 2 daughters and a son.
2 daughters and a son. Did you raise your children because of that? Really, like, did you instill in them that all those words of wisdom? Is that how you parented them?
It's not how it works. I
How does it?
tried, because every time I saw them suffer,
Uh-huh.
I knew what they needed to do. They need to get, because the suffering is out here in the world of change,
Right.
or in here in the world of change, or in our emotions. That's all world of change, right?
Mhm.
People's nature, that's all changing all the time.
Right.
And if you count on something in a world of change and it changes, then you're disappointed, or you lose
Exactly.
it, and it doesn't work. And then you suffer because you wanted it not to change. You want to change not to change, right?
Right.
And then you suffer, right? Well, there's something in you beyond suffering that was not affected by that change.
Exactly.
And so I would say to them, and whenever I saw them suffer, I would say to them, there's something in you. You need to go there. And you know what? Didn't work at all.
Huh.
It didn't work at all. Didn't work at all, because people have to find their way to it. Like, nobody told me where I would find my answer.
Right.
I just basically did what I did, and you could say suffered through whatever I suffered through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know, and eventually I found my way there. Nobody had to tell me by that point that it was a good idea to do a stillness practice. I was ready for it.
Right.
And so I was trying to shortcut it for them and help them not suffer, because as a parent, you don't,
Right.
you want, and you can't do it for your kids.
Right. Well, you're
Because
an
they have,
example.
because they have to come. Yeah, you can be an example doing it in your life,
Right.
but you can't do it in their life,
Exactly.
right? And so you can model it, but most people don't model it either, because they haven't found their way back.
Right.
Most parents have not done their homework. In fact, most parents think that having kids would get them what they actually need to do the homework for.
Right.
And that doesn't work either.
No, and I want to explain something. So
Yeah.
I had my children at 37 and 40.
Okay.
And so I was like we were talking before recording, I did the Tony Robbins thing. I did a lot of personal development and spiritual work before. So I really was an intentional parent. And that's why I'm very interested in how you parented yours. So my oldest is 17 and got and this is coming up in a day before yesterday. This happened. So it was sparking this thing that happened in this home. Was Paige is on the rowing team, and she has been rowing for 4 years for the crew team. And had a goal to go to college, to row for college, got accepted as on a seat for the boat. And a day ago, we got a call from the school saying they've deleted that sport. And now we're back to ground zero.
And now she's suffering.
So now this is the thing, though. I'm telling you, Udo.
Yeah.
So we're sitting there and we're listening to this message from the coach. And I sat there kind of excited, like, this means something, that there's a redirection here. And I
Sure.
said, she gets off the phone and we're all kind of thinking it's a dream. And she kind of gets tears, and and I said, you know what, Paige, this is you're powerful. Do you realize that they cut that team, and now you get to go figure out, maybe you don't want to row in school, and you'll still get to go to that amazing college that maybe you wouldn't have gotten into.
Right.
And then maybe you're going to go row at a different school because that's calling you. It's a bigger picture. So we're 1 day out of that. And now it's amazing because that's where she's found it in herself to be. And the knowing, Mom, I know that I said, you're going to know that feeling that it's going to, you're going to know. But I got tears when you were talking, because I'm like, gosh, I'm just experiencing that now, like as a parent, watching her experience that. And it's so beautiful.
Yeah. How cool. Yeah. So, and maybe you were a better model than I was. There's always that possibility. But they find their way to it.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
And because, I have a teacher who says, don't depend on things that end.
Yes.
Right. And you live in a world of change. Everything in the environment changes. Everything in human beings changes. Everything in thinking changes. Anything in emotions changes. So it's always changing, right? If you want something constant in your life, there is something constant in your life.
Right.
And the core of your being. But you have to go there to bring your focus to that inside of your core, to feel that constant thing that is a good foundation to live from.
Right.
Right. And it can't just be a head trip. And sometimes what people do is they memorize a belief system, and then they become really rigid in their belief system, and they're trying to make that their anchor. But their anchor is actually the experience of a peace that is the container within which your entire life unfolds.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
And the whole universe unfolds in that container of peace, right?
Yeah. I love
And
it.
then you are the unconditional love unfolding and dancing in that container.
Right.
Right. That's like from a deeper place. That's how it is. And everything on the outside will change and will continue to change, because that is its nature. But the peace, its nature is not to change, is to be constant. And the life energy is formless and indestructible. It's perfect health. It never gets sick. It never dies. Right? You want health. That's the place where you're going to find absolute health, as opposed to relative health that comes from eating vitamins and oils and taking enzymes and doing all of those things. Right.
Right. Let's go there. As much as I want to talk to you.
We probably should do a separate one on that if you're up for it.
I am up for it, but can we lead
into,
so when you got divorced and how
so when my kids were still pretty young, like they were 4, 2, and 1, my marriage fell apart. And I had started doing this practice, but I had just started doing it, so I wasn't that good at it yet.
How old were you then? How old?
I was 38. I was 34, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So we had 3 kids. Yeah, that's right. So I was 34. My marriage broke up. That's a long story, and I was really upset. And I wanted to kill something. And I had a pesticide applicator's license from a gardening job that I had done. And so I got a full-time job as a pesticide sprayer, because pesticides are used to kill things. And I wanted to kill things. I was really crazy. It was crazy upset. And I was super careless. I walked barefoot over the lawns that I had sprayed with pesticides. until the skin peeled off the bottom of my feet.
Wow.
And then I started wearing rubber boots, but it was a summer job, and I'm fair skinned, so I always wanted to have a nice tan. So it's vanity, right?
Right.
My favorite sin.
I
And
know.
I would spray wearing a bathing suit and rubber boots, and so I'd feel the wind drift of spray on my back sometimes because I had a big tank and
Wow.
and I was totally careless. Somebody even asked me, "Aren't you worried you're going to get poisoned?" I said, "Nah, I'm immune." We call that testosterone poisoning. It's what
Right.
happens to a lot of young men until they have their first disaster that they have to take credit for,
Right. They can't,
right?
yeah.
And and then after 3 years of doing it, I got poisoned. And then it was like,
What kind of, when you say, because I've heard that, but what were you experiencing when you say
I
that?
got cramps, nausea, dizziness,
Okay.
low energy. I was 38 when I got poisoned. And literally, if I walked around a city block, I would have to rest. That's how little energy I had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, and the other symptom was that if I turned my head, it felt like my head turned, but my brain didn't. Now, I know that's not anatomically, that's not possible, but that's
Right.
what it felt like. It was a really strange feeling.
Huh.
And I knew it came from the pesticides. And then, so basically, I had the background in biochemistry and genetics. I figured out, your body's always turning over, like 98% of the atoms in your body today. If we meet a year from now, they will have been removed and replaced. So you'll be almost be a
different person.
98% different person.
Huh.
And you won't even have noticed because it happens so seamlessly.
Mm.
I mean, talk about miracles, right? It's like, oh,
Right.
oh.
It is a miracle.
So because that's true, if something goes wrong in your body, then what you do is you have to raise your standard for intake because your body's made out of food, water, and air.
Right.
You raise your standard, and in 1 year, you will have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. So that's what I did. And I was reading about what that would entail, right? Obviously, I stopped spraying pesticides. That was important, right?
Right.
But then, okay, how do I raise the standard to heal? Because that turnover of your body is why healing is possible, right? And your life is perfect health. It already knows what to build.
Right.
Right? You need to give it the building blocks. There are 42 of them, 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids, 2 essential fatty acids. And if you optimize all those 42, then you're giving life all of the building blocks it needs to do an optimum job of building you a body. Right? So I really got into that, and then I got stuck on oils because it was the most confusing area, completely contradictory. On the one hand, says omega-6 is essential, and the very next study I read says omega gives you cancer and kills you. And I'm going, how could that be possible? Right? I have to have it, and then it gives me cancer. How can that be possible? And then that made me look deeper. And it was about how oils are made and the damage done to oils when they're being made by industry for a longer shelf life. And then I got into that. And then I said, well, I can't get healthy on oils that are damaged. We should make oils with health in mind. So I developed a method for making oils with health in mind. Very painstaking. No light, no oxygen can get to the oil while it's being pressed and settled and filtered and filled, and it has to go in glass. It can't go in plastic because plastic leaches into oils quicker than into water, and there can't be pesticide in it, so it has to be from organically grown seeds. So we put all that together to develop a method for making oils with health in mind. And and then I did all kinds of other stuff. I started paying attention. I wasn't like a real junk food eater. I wasn't really, I did lots of things that aren't in line with living in line with nature and my nature. And
like what? What would that be?
Well, Oh, like okay, for instance, I ate a lot of bread, which bread in the city would be mostly white bread.
Hmm.
You go and have a submarine sandwich. Well, it's on a white grain bun,
Hmm.
right? Well, white flour is wheat kernels that have had like 80% of the magnesium and 30% of the B vitamins and or 30 about a third of it, and 80% of the vitamin B6 and a third of the protein and all of the and most of the fiber, have been removed.
Hmm.
So I'm living things that are out of line with nature. When the law is we were made in nature, out of nature, and what we need in order to be healthy needs to be in line with nature, which is fresh, whole, raw, organic for human beings, mostly plant-based, right? That's the standard in nature that we come
Right.
from. And of course, we fry things in oils and we burn our food and we take stuff out of the food and we have pesticides in the foods and we put chemical preservatives in there that never existed in nature. And so we're doing a lot of things that are out of line with nature. So
Right.
I was doing, I ate raw cabbage when I had my spraying job just because it's simple. And
Right.
I happen to like cabbage and it was raw. So it was all of that was good. That's probably why I didn't get killed by the pesticides
Oh,
because,
wow. Because I'm like,
because
wait, I like raw cabbage. I eat that all the time.
yeah.
Oh,
Just
so that's
yeah.
good.
But also you shouldn't take a job as a pesticide sprayer.
Right. Right.
But
But it's,
then I
yeah.
started I started being more uh more committed, more detailed in my focus on living in line with nature.
Right.
So now these days I eat pretty much everything raw, mostly raw, mostly plant-based.
And you love broccoli.
I love broccoli. I put
I
it in.
had broccoli last night and I said,
I
Udo, I'm interviewing him tomorrow. You have got to have
yeah,
broccoli
yeah,
tonight,
yeah,
kid.
yeah, yeah. We can, yeah. You try to get the vibe, right? If I'm made out of broccoli, then you need to be made out of broccoli to have a good interview.
Exactly.
Something like that, yeah. And I'm low carb.
Hmm.
I have no bread in my house, no pasta, no buns, and all of that stuff.
Yeah, we're low
And
on that too. But it's funny that I listened to this morning about, I used to do half marathons, the whole carbo load and
yeah,
how that's a really great example because
yeah,
you know, the carbos that you're not burning what you're supposed to be with for energy.
yeah. Well, because your body can only store about a pound of carbs. So if you're going to do a full marathon, a pound of carbs, we call it glycogen or animal starch that you can
Hmm.
store in your liver and your muscles. It's a pound, that's the limit. But that only gets you 20 miles, and a marathon is 26 miles. So people
Hmm.
would hit the wall at mile 20 and then drag their butts across the finish line because when you're burning carbs, the genes for burning fats stay turned off. That's just how the body works,
Right.
right? And so what we said to them is, and they were all told to carb load for the 3 days before they did the marathon. And we said, no, you guys are doing it all wrong. What you need to do is you need to carb deplete to make sure that your fat burning is turned on. Because you could store 300 pounds of fat in your body and you could run 12,000 miles on that 300 pounds of fat,
Hmm.
right? So that's a lot of marathons.
Right.
You can't do that on carbs. And so carb loading was actually a wrong idea for people who do endurance sports.
Right.
So we said, no, crank down your carbs, use good oils, because omega-3s are the highest energy molecule of all of our nutrition molecules. Crank up your oils, and omega-3s turn on fat burning in the body and turn off fat production. And run your race on oil as your fuel, not on
Right.
carbs. And people thought we were crazy because everybody's saying, no, carb load, carb load, carb load, carb load. And a few people who listened to us because they'd already hit the wall, so they knew there was something not
Hmm.
right with the carbs. So the few people who did, they came back and after the marathon said, that was awesome. After I finished the marathon, I felt like I had enough energy to run another one.
Wow.
And now slowly that's all come around, and there are now
Right.
people focusing on that. They're still not doing it right because they don't know what I know, because I've been doing this for over 40 years and
Right.
very, very focused on that particular issue.
Right. I don't cook
But
with
slowly it's
oil.
coming around.
Yes, I
Yeah.
don't cook with oil. I had a woman
Yeah.
on like 6 months ago and I threw it all away. And
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that if someone tells me, like
Yeah.
now learning from you, like I'm going to be taking 3 tablespoons of the 369.
Yeah.
I've
Well,
already ordered it. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm going to
yeah.
make the girls
Yeah.
take 2 tablespoons
Yeah.
and cook in water.
Cooking water. Frying is the dumbest thing we've ever invented to do to our food if you're thinking about health and food. The
Right.
dumbest thing, worse than white sugar. Worse
Mm-hmm.
than white sugar, because what you're doing is you're taking all these molecules. You're taking these molecules and you're changing them into something that never existed in nature, that's toxic for you. And then you're filling your body with toxic molecules, and you do it day after day after day after day after day. And it's associated, frying is associated with increased inflammation, which is behind just about everything that goes wrong in your body,
Right.
and increased risk of cancer. This is like, the research is really clear.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you want to do that to yourself unless you were so depressed that you just wanted to check out?
Right.
Right?
Or like you say, take the
or you
frying pan and hit it to your head.
bong, yeah. Or you didn't know,
Right.
right? Because the industry that makes these oils and that recommends them for frying doesn't tell you the damage you're doing to yourself when you actually do what they say.
Right.
Yeah.
So what about butter?
Butter? Well, the only thing from oils that is really important, that you have to have, that you can't live without, is omega-3 and omega-6. They're called essential fatty acids because
Mm-hmm.
you can't make them. You have to have them. You have to bring them in from outside. If you don't get enough, your health will deteriorate. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die.
Right.
But if before you die, you bring enough back in, then all of your symptoms from not getting enough are reversed, because life knows what to do if
Right.
you make sure, if you take responsibility at your mouth, that you get all of the building blocks it needs into your
Mm-hmm.
body, right? So that's the definition of essential. Butter has almost none of those, very
Right.
little. Now, butter is okay for fuel, but the most important thing you have to pay attention to is getting both essential fatty acids undamaged, not filled with pesticides, not in plastic, in the right ratio. And we developed a blend for putting that together. It's called Udo's oil.
Right.
And when you do that, that takes care of what's essential about fats. And then you can take fats like butter and you can eat it and it's okay.
Okay.
If you don't get the essential fatty acids and you eat a lot of saturated fats, they will make your platelets more sticky, so they'll take you towards heart disease,
Okay.
and they'll make you more insulin resistant and take you towards diabetes. So you have to optimize as your first step in around oils. You have to optimize your intake of the 2 essential fatty acids in the right ratio. And once you've done that, omega-3s make your platelets less sticky, so they work against the saturated fats and protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And they make you more insulin sensitive, so they work against insulin resistance as well.
Wow.
Right?
Why doesn't everyone know this? Yeah.
Well, because you don't have 8 billion people listening on your podcast. And
But
I'm not yelling loud enough.
no, I've seen that oil on the shelf,
Yeah.
Udo, like I
Yeah.
mean, I knew your name. Like it was
Yeah.
like in my mind. I could see it on the shelf.
Yeah. And thousands of people wander by it and have no idea.
Yes, exactly.
I
And
know.
I
I
know.
know.
But I know you do probiotics and digestive enzymes and
Yeah.
all. That's all very important. Those are
Yeah.
all part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's well, I started working on oils because of the contradiction, and I was wanted to get healthy, and I said I can't get. I found out how much damage is done to oils. If they're 1% damaged by the industry, you
Mm-hmm.
get more than 1 million damaged molecules for every one of your body's 60 trillion cells in 1 tablespoon. And
Wow.
then how many tablespoons do you take? And there's pesticides in there, and there's plastic in there. And if you fry them, you got to multiply that by another 3 to 6 times,
Mm,
and then you do that for 30 years. That's 11,000 days. It's like, how many damaged molecules are you deliberately putting into your body?
right.
Most people don't know that.
Right.
If they
No.
knew, if they knew, they would probably think, because most people try to be healthy,
Yeah.
right? With what they know, they apply some of it. We're not that committed in some ways. We're a little sloppy sometimes, but people don't know. People don't know because the industry doesn't tell them and the government doesn't require it.
Right.
And so we don't know a lot of things that happens in processing, that happens in industry, that happens for profit, that is really bad for health.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
ultimately, that's how we're destroying ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Do you see, is your company is it growing more than it was, say, when I was in my 20s, so like 30 years ago, when that was like the fat-free craze,
Well,
and don't eat oil and don't,
yeah,
everyone's
we,
afraid of oil.
yeah, yeah. I started in the height of the no fat craze,
Okay.
and I went to Vegas to an international meeting of the Vegan Society,
Huh.
and so I said to them when I got up, I said, "So how many of you are on vegan diets?" And all the hands went up. How many of you are on low fat diet? All the hands went up. And how many of you dry skin? All of the hands went up. And I said, when you have dry skin, you need more oil.
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way to measure it. If you're in a dry place and in winter, it shows up more than in summer in humid places. But
Mm-hmm.
if your skin is dry, you need more oil because skin gets them last and loses them first. Because they have priority in other parts of your body. You can live
Right.
with dry skin, but if your heart dried out, you'd be history.
Right.
So heart gets them first. And you only get it to the skin. Your skin becomes soft, smooth, and velvety if you have enough, if you're taking enough oil for it to finally oil your skin.
Right.
That's how it works, right? So yeah, it's easy to figure it out how much you need.
And we can reverse it.
And then and so then again, not everybody followed what I was saying, but the people who I said, what you need to do is you need to take a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day of Udo's oil,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because that's what we put together to give people a one-shot cure for it. And you need to take, and if you take a tablespoon per 50, that's about what you need to make your skin nice. Might be a little more, might be a little less.
Okay.
So told them to do that. That's the mistake you're making, is you're not getting the oils that you need to have. And the people who did that came back and said, wow, not only did my skin become nice, but I got my energy back.
Mm.
Because I didn't ask that question, but a lot of people who eat low fat diets are really low energy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have energy. And so yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what oils do. And 99% of the population doesn't get enough omega-3 for optimum health.
Mm-hmm.
Most people get enough omega-6 unless they're on a low fat or a no fat diet, but the omega-6s are damaged. So you need to switch out your omega-6s for omega-6s made with health in mind, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to bring back the missing omega-3s also made with health in mind. And that's
Right.
basically what we tried to do with that's what we took on to do with the oils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never are at the,
So then
yes.
after
Keep going.
because it came out of something you said, and then I decided, well, what's next? What's the oils are the most neglected area. What's the next most neglected? Digestion. So I got into digestive enzymes, probiotics, fiber, and bitters. And then then I was like, okay, well, what else needs to be done? Then I got into greens because that's the foundation of everything. And everybody knows they're supposed to eat their greens, and most people don't. So I got into greens, and then I started saying, okay, well, what's next? What else affects health? And just to ask the question, well, what else affects health? And they're like, well, actually, everything affects health. And so then I got into total health and the nature of human nature, because the way we get healthy is to live in line with nature and our nature. And it's different, you know, the chickens have a different nature. They need different food. And the squirrels have a different nature and they need different, but it's always in line with nature and their nature. So what does it look like to live in nature with your nature? Well, there's the peace in you. If you don't give that some attention, that's going to cost you something in health. The unconditional love that you feel. If you're not in touch with that, then you're always going to be looking for it, and you're going to be looking at in places where it ain't, because you already have it, but you're not doing the homework, right? You're not looking into it. So you're looking elsewhere for it. What else? Well, when you feel that love, it shines into the world. I call that inspired purpose. And that's about to help, right? To help, and it feels good in the heart to help. That should be a hint.
Right.
Right? So that needs attention. And then you got the body, food and fitness and digestion and rest and all of that. And then you got protection, which is the protective part of mind, you know, skills, survival skills. You know, if you live in a place where there's tidal waves, you don't want to build below a certain mark on the ground.
Right.
You know, where the tidal waves hit, right?
Right.
Or if you live under the volcano, you should move, right? Right. So then there's survival skills, and then there's people, and people can make you sick. That's in fact, when we were kids, you know, we got mad at some kid, you know, got really mad at somebody. You make me sick, right? Right. We used to say that. Right?
Totally.
Yeah. So we, even as kids, we knew that people affect our health. So you need to pick the people,
right,
that have done their homework, that are good models, that are encouraging and supportive as much as possible, but that will also challenge you.
Right.
Because it's not all just about support. Right.
Right.
But they do it in ways, you know, they don't do it in mean ways.
Right. Pushy. Yeah.
Not pushy or what do you call it? Abusive. Right.
Right.
Could be more mentally, verbally, sexually, physically abusive. Right.
Right.
So you want to pick the people you hang out with. And then nature. You know, walks in nature are really good. They prescribed them for kids in Scandinavian countries. Nature walks. Nature walks is a medical prescription.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Which makes sense. You cut the tree. Every time you take a breath, you should say thank you for the plants that made it. If you take a breath out, you should say welcome to the plants that need the carbon dioxide. Right? Right? Yes. So you have a system of reciprocity with the natural world around you. And then the last one is the big picture, the fact that your body's a terminal condition, you know, and you're living in an infinite universe, and to be okay with that.
Right.
Here I am, everything's cool.
Everything's cool.
So, and then each one of those 8 has a different nature and a different function, needs a different kind of attention on a regular basis, goes off in a different way, and responds to a different kind of intervention. Right? That's what total health is about.
Yeah, right. That's your book, The Sexy
Total
Sexy Health.
Yeah. I tried to do something with that. It kind of diminished the topic.
Oh, I can kind of see that.
The sexy thing, right?
Right.
My thought of it was, and I did like that. I said, look, sexy is a power word.
Right.
Actually, life should be the power word. For some reason, in human cultures, life has never become the power word. Oh my God, you're alive. In life is everything. Oh my God. You know, so that should be the power word. You know, you say it's a sacred thing, right? Right. So like any time somebody says the word life, you know, you should get a thrill.
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like
It's
sexy.
a
Ah,
miracle. Yeah.
or yeah, or so. So the idea was sexy is the power word. So I want to use the power word that everybody uses to sell all kinds of crap. I want to use the power word to sell people on their own magnificence as human beings. That was the
Right.
idea. And then
Right.
there was the 8 parts. And the idea is that if you live aligned with all 8 parts, you're going to be as sexy as is possible for you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And sexy isn't just about sex, right? Sexy is
Right.
anything that's noticeable, vibrant, energetic,
Right.
cool, right? So the idea is, so if you're in aligned with all of it, then that's going to be your sexiest. Anytime any part gets out of line, you're going to lose some of your sexy. And when you get back in line, you get your sexy back. That was
Right.
so the model is a nice model.
Yes. Oh,
And
I loved it.
but
Yeah.
but it kind of trivialized, I feel now. It was a good exercise for me. I
Mm-hmm.
trivialized the topic. And in fact, the guy who suggested he said you should, oh, total health. Oh, that's such a boring title. Spice it up a little. Call it total sexy health. I said, I can't do that. I don't know anything about sexy. And then I started thinking about it. And I said, no, I know a lot about sexy. Everybody knows a lot about sexy, right? And so then I decided it was a good exercise for me, but I do feel it trivialized the topic. So I'm in the process of rewriting all that stuff.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we're at the end,
So
but I
yeah,
wanted,
yeah.
we didn't finish your,
No,
you
no,
never,
we got to do another one.
we are, but
Yeah.
the only thing I want you to share is the part that I asked you in the beginning of when
Oh,
you saw you saw had a moment in your life where you saw something and you didn't share it for like 50 years.
oh yeah, it was actually 30 years that I thought it was just private. Well, it was a divine interaction,
Right.
but
That's
I
what I,
but I don't know. Do you want to leave it for the next one? We'll
no, I
tell.
want you to end on this. Is that okay?
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened after I left university? I hadn't found what I was looking for. I wasn't exactly sure what that was, but I knew I would recognize it when I found it. Somehow I always had that confidence. And so I did some psychedelics. I told you that blew the door off my childhood personality, my war child personality. And then I kind of said, I got to a point where I said, first of all, is the experience in the pill or is the experience in me? Well, no, the experience is in me. So there must be a way to get to that experience without the pill.
Right.
Okay, that was the first part. And then the second part was uh, psychedelics can be hard on your body if you do a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that I only get one body. I'm going to look after it. I need to look after it. I felt a little burnt out. I said, I'm not doing any psychedelics for 2 years to give my chance a body just to rest and recover.
Mm-hmm.
A good idea. And then in the meantime, of course, I'm still looking, right? So I said, okay, well, so, who do I model myself after? What is a really good human being? Who can I, my father was not my model and my mother was not my model. They were good people, but they weren't my model. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get along with my dad at all for
Oh, okay.
most of our life until the last 4 years. And then we saw eye to eye on just about everything.
Huh.
That's a whole other story.
Yeah. That's
Anyway,
okay.
so
Next one.
I'm looking for a model, and it occurred to me, the person that is most interesting to me of anybody that I know about is this guy Jesus. They're still talking about him 2,000 years later.
Right.
Nobody remembers my grandfather who hasn't been dead for 60 years, for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about this guy that made him memorable? I want to know. And so then the question I asked was, I want to know what he felt, what he experienced that made him able to live and talk and do what he did. Right? I want to have that experience. I don't want to be Jesus. I don't want a religion named after me. I definitely don't want holes in my hands.
Right.
Right? But I want to know what is the experience, because I knew that if somebody writes poetry, they must be feeling something.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can't write poetry when you're not feeling anything. People try it and it's crap.
Right.
It's garbage, right? So I had some experience with that too. So he must have had some experience. I want to have that experience. And so I got the red letter edition of the New Testament.
Mhm.
Everything Jesus says is in red ink and everything else is in black ink. Because I wanted to get focused. It's 2,000 years later. I
Mhm.
wasn't there when he was there. What's the closest I can get? Red letter edition. That's all I had to go with, right? So then I started reading it and thinking about, what does that mean? I didn't ask anybody to interpret it. I interpreted it myself. Like one of them, he says, what you have done to one of the least of these people,
Mhm.
that you have done to me.
Yes.
And I said, what does that mean? Well, the only way I can understand it is I am in all of those least of these people.
Right.
So and then I said, like, oh my God, I am in everything, in everyone. I am in everyone.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if I am in everyone, then you are in me, and you're in you, and you're in everyone. But I still don't know what that is, right? So I started putting little things to the test in the New Testament, and had some really magical experiences. And then I got in with the group that called themselves the Jesus People's Army.
Funny.
That came up the coast from California to Vancouver, where I was living, right? And army, the word army should have been a warning to me, because army was for a war child is probably not an exalted term, right? But I totally missed the cue. I got in my head as well, these guys must all be doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure it out, and and they're really trying to figure it out. And when you try to figure things out, you start having experiences, and we're all going to get together and we're going to share our experiences of our search, and we're going to all leave this evening enriched by the stories that we've told and the things that gives us to think about.
Right.
That's what I thought was going to happen. So they had a coffee house that they ran, and they invited people. So I went to the coffee house, and I walked in. I sat down in a chair at a table, and immediately this other guy swooped in next to me. That should have been my second warning, and I missed that cue too. And so I just looked at him, and I just looked him in the eyes. I didn't introduce myself. I just said, it must be possible to see God and live. Because as a kid, we were told, if you see God, you die. Right. And I was like, wait a minute. He loves me. He takes care of me. He made the whole universe. He runs everything. He makes my food. He's like, he looks after me when I'm sleeping, keeps me breathing, and he runs the show, and loves me unconditionally. But if I look at him, he kills me. And they're like, that doesn't make sense. So I said this to him. It must be possible to see God and live. Well, I don't know what was on his mind, but he jumped out of his chair, and he was jumping around in the room with his arms flying around wildly. And he screamed at the top of his voice, "You're from the devil! You're from the Antichrist! Get out!"
Oh my gosh.
So I go slinking out of there. It's like, ooh, what just happened?
Oh my God.
And I'm standing on the sidewalk, and I said, well, let's see. I haven't seen God, so maybe I shouldn't have said that. Maybe it's not a question we're supposed to ask, because we were also told there are certain questions that you're not supposed to ask. But they wouldn't tell us what those questions were, because if they'd have told us, I would have asked them.
Right, exactly.
I was always trying to figure out, right?
Right.
So then it was like, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't have asked the question. Maybe it's, maybe that's no. And I got really confused. And I felt really desperate, and I really wanted to know. And so I went out in nature to clear my head, which is what I used to do in those days. Ended up on a beach on the west coast of Vancouver Island, deserted, logs on the beach, how they sit. And somebody had draped some plastic over some logs, made a kind of a dwelling. I said, okay, here's my hotel for the weekend, right? And I went in and I fell asleep. And in the middle of the night, I woke bolt upright from dead asleep. And there was this being made of light, standing on a cloud of light. But the being was brighter than the cloud. There were no wings on it, so it wasn't an angel. There were no labels, and there were no words. but the being embodied a message. And I could put words to that message, to that embodiment. And the message was, I am come not to judge, but to love.
Oh,
I
like
am
that.
come not to judge, but to love. Do you know of a more accurate crystallization of Christ's message?
No, that's amazing.
I am come not to judge, but to love,
I
right?
love.
And by the way, and then my all my confusion evaporated
Oh, I bet.
instantly. I have never had a question about what was the message of the master to humanity, which, by the way, is the same message of the master within you, life, to your body. I
Right.
am come not to judge, but to love. Unconditional, empowering love.
Yes.
There's the message, right?
Yes.
And then I started feasting on I didn't know who that was. Who was that? I was doing a kind of a Jesus exploration. So was that Christ? Was that soul? Was that my life? Was that spirit? And I didn't know, but I came to the conclusion that actually those are all the same.
Oh, the same. Right.
Yeah, it's all the same. It's
Right.
like, oh, okay, well, that's news to me. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then the life, and then this, I only realized this a couple of months ago. So it's been a long time. This was
Oh,
1970.
wow. Okay.
So I just realized the life I was looking for in the beaker,
Right.
that was liquid and shining when I was studying
Yes.
biology, that I was looking for, that I never found anywhere in university. That's where I found it.
Yes.
That's where I found it. But I didn't realize that until 2 months ago. Oh, that whole thing came together,
Wow.
right?
Huh.
And then
We're-
completely reset my life. Because I was like, okay, well, there it is. I felt it. It's within me. It's the message. And it's like, it's all coherent. It's completely coherent. So what if you make the standard? I am come not to judge, but to love. I, as life, am come not to judge, but to love. What if you make that your standard?
Yes.
Well, then you're going to fail against that standard and learn, and then you're going to try again, and you're going to fail against that standard and learn something more and learn something more and learn something more. And you're going to fail your way to success.
Yes.
And you're a work in progress. And I have never seen how deep it goes, because I've gone pretty deep and I have never seen the bottom of it. So we are always going to be works in progress.
Right.
But I'm on a track.
And
this is a good track.
Oh,
this is the track. This is the track that 8 billion people need to get on if we want to create a heaven on, or if we want to live in the heaven on earth that we're already living in but missing.
Exactly.
Because we're distracted.
Right.
Right.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And then it became a memory. And I said, damn it, I want to stay in that experience.
Right.
On a moment to moment basis. And that question led me to somebody who taught me to do a stillness practice.
Huh.
And, because I didn't realize, like, just from having that experience, I didn't realize how important it is to take time every day to sit quietly with yourself and bring your focus, allow your focus to go in and discover what is in you and become more connected to, identified with, or more one with the life that in my individual essence I am.
Yes.
Which happens to also be the life of the master. Because what the difference between the masters and the people was, the master was taking it seriously. So, he went off to the hills and, he spent 40 days in the desert, time by themselves, being present, right? They all took time for that.
Right.
And most of the people, if they even do any of that, they just dabble in it. But they spoke from their essence to the essence in other people. And then if people were interested, they helped them find ways to because sometimes his disciples went on his quiet places as well, right?
Right.
So then they taught them something that we maybe never made it into the scriptures, because there are techniques and there's methods.
Mm-hmm.
And those methods weren't for everybody. They were just for the people who were interested in pursuing that kind of a life.
Right.
Right.
Oh,
So,
thank you, Udo.
so that was and literally it completely changed my life. I mean, it literally blew the it wasn't just blowing the door off the more baby word. This one blew up the house, and just like completely freed me.
Right. Oh, what a feeling.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been so fun. I've loved this. Yes, we could keep going, and we will have a part 2.
Yeah.
Tell everybody.
We'll get into of all the things in physical health that is most neglected, the oil story is it. I gave you a little bit of it, but just the oil story could take easily an hour.
Right. Yes. And that's important. And I feel
but this is a more important story.
Yes. And that was kind of in my mind, because there's so many different ways we could go today. And I was like, wow, this is so deep with his life. And that's what I really wanted to portray. And
you made me do it.
I made you.
You made me do it.
Watch out. Next time I'll make you do it again.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So they can find you by your books.
I'm easy to find. If you punch in Udo, UDO, or Udo Erasmus, I'm really easy to find. I'm on Google, and if you go Udo Erasmus podcast, there's a bunch of podcasts I've done. It sounds like you listened to some of them.
I did.
Yeah.
Many.
Okay. And I'm on LinkedIn, and I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Instagram, and I have a YouTube channel on about Udo Erasmus, under Udo Erasmus. So I'm not hard to find, and I have a website that is udoerasmus.com, and it's a mess. It's a work in progress. There's some good things on it, but I'm not happy with it at this point. It needs work.
Well, we're all a work in progress, right?
Yeah, and then Udo's Choice is another website that's basically the
all your oils and products, right?
Yeah, oils, enzymes, probiotics, greens.
And you can order that too on Amazon.
You can get them on Amazon. They're in health food stores. The oil is in the fridge, and the the probiotics are in the fridge.
Right.
And you can go to florahealth.com/Udo, and you can see the products in the products I work with, and get them direct from the company as well.
Oh, okay.
So there's all kinds of ways to go.
Thank you.
And at some point, I don't know if you do affiliate programs, but we're sort of slowly working on putting something like that together.
Oh, good. Okay. I can talk Udo oils all day long. We're going to be having that for breakfast, but I know we're putting it on food.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out how to give my girls their 2 tablespoons.
Yeah, just lose it in food.
Right.
Put it in their favorite foods, and the more flavor you have in the food, the more the oil will enhance flavors.
It, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll also enhance the absorption of oil-soluble nutrients in your foods.
Okay. Well, anybody listening, if you haven't been doing that, that's definitely something you need to be ordering today.
Yeah.
So thank you, Udo. And I will see you in the next episode, and we will talk way more physical health and all the other magical things we can uncover that you've uncovered for us to learn from.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.